Having a rushing quarterback in fantasy raises your weekly ceiling, and sometimes if they're very good, they can single-handedly bring you to the fantasy playoffs. Now, the issue is most of them are really expensive in your fantasy drafts, but on today's video, I am bringing you a late round quarterback that I believe can help people win their fantasy leagues. Do me a favor, just be a friend, help the channel grow. Drop a like. I have a like goal of 100 likes on the stream. Maybe you can help me get there. But let's get straight into the video here. Quarterbacks who have led the NFL in rushing yards have been top 10 in fantasy in 5 of the last 6 seasons, including 2 top 2 finishes and 3 top 6 finishes. So the question is now, who do we think is going to lead the NFL at the quarterback position in rushing yards in 2023? I think the most obvious names, the most obvious candidates would be Lamar Jackson and Justin Fields. They have to be the favorites. Last year, their combined 17 game pace, they were on track to, again, combine rush for over 2,350 yards together collectively. You can see Justin Fields finished the year with 1,143 rushing yards, Lamar Jackson with 764. Keep in mind, neither of those quarterbacks played all 17 games. You can see their 17 game pace there. But one issue that a lot of people might be facing is it worth paying the price in fantasy drafts for a Lamar Jackson and Justin Fields? If you want to draft those players, and look, I love Justin Fields this year, but if you want to draft either of them, you're going to have to spend a 3rd or 4th round pick in your fantasy drafts. They absolutely can return the value of that price. Either of those guys can be the quarterback one this year, but you might miss out on some really valuable running backs and wide receivers as you're trying to build your fantasy team. So if those guys aren't an option, who else could lead the league and could be a fantasy rushing superstar this year that might be cheaper? My dark horse that I'm bringing to you guys today is Anthony Richardson, the rookie quarterback out of Florida. He doesn't go as early as these guys, nowhere near as early, and he will likely be my late round quarterback pick in fantasy drafts this year if I don't grab an earlier quarterback. Why do I think he can potentially, he's one of those names that could lead the league in rushing yards? Well, firstly, last year in the SEC, a very competitive conference, best defense in college football you're facing on a weekly basis. Last year, he rushed for 654 yards and 9 rushing touchdowns on the ground. And he had a historic combine, NFL draft combine. He broke a ton of records. Ridiculous athlete. In fact, he scored a 10 out of 10 relative athletic score. He was, which by the way ranks first out of 916 quarterback prospects in the last 36 years. It is genuinely not an understatement to say we have not seen an athlete at the quarterback position in the NFL like this since maybe Cam Newton's rookie year. And that's in no way me suggesting that Anthony Richardson is going to be as good as Cam Newton in his rookie year, or that Anthony Richardson is going to be a good NFL quarterback. However, everything is there. He checks all the boxes for him to be a good fantasy asset. He might be a bad passer, but he could still be a fantastic fantasy asset because of what he can do on the ground. By the way, if you want, I'm going to dive much more deeper here, but if you want more of these little steals or ways to get an upper hand on your fantasy leagues, strategies, rankings, databases, and more, then go ahead and use our promo code LAND when signing up to the Flock Fantasy website. You'll see a pinned comment where you can sign up. You'll get 30% off your membership, and if you choose the Mother Flocker tier, you're going to get a direct DM to myself for advice. You can say, hey, I got this trade offer. What do you think? Whatever your heart desires in that DM. DM us on Discord if you sign up. We'll get you all set up. But Anthony Richardson, not only was he setting records at the combine for his athleticism, not only did he have a fantastic last year at Florida on the ground, but he landed in the perfect situation with the perfect head coach for his skill sets. His new head coach is Shane Steichen, who, by the way, was the offensive coordinator for Jalen Hurts for the last couple years. Jalen Hurts, another athletic quarterback who was a rough passer coming into the NFL. And Shane is going to, just like he did with Jalen Hurts, he's going to know how to utilize Anthony's strengths here in year one, which probably won't be through the air, but we're fine with that for fantasy purposes. So if I'm all in on Anthony Richardson as being my late round fantasy quarterback, you might be asking, well, what does that mean? What's the price? What are you going to pay for him? Well, his current ADP across platforms, it's in Sleeper, he's the quarterback 12. On Underdog, he's going as a quarterback 11. ESPN, he's going as a quarterback 16. In my rankings, he is my quarterback 11. And you might be asking yourself, okay, so why are you so high on him? Quarterback 11 seems quite high. How do you know he's going to return that ADP? Why don't we have a look at the leading quarterbacks in rushing from 2017 to 2022. Let's look at some data for the last 6 years and let's see what their ADP was before the year and where they finished in fantasy football. Again, because I believe Anthony Richardson is one of those 3 or 4 names who could lead the league in rushing. So last year, Justin Fields, you can see his ADP was quarterback 20. He finished as a quarterback 6. He led the league in rushing. The year before that, Jalen Hurts led the league in rushing, quarterback 12. And people were saying, you're paying quarterback 12 prices for Jalen Hurts? Are you sure about that? He absolutely met the expectations, finished as a quarterback 9. The year before that, Lamar Jackson, his 2020 season, he was injured. He was highly drafted, so hard to really rely on that. Still finished top 10. And then in 2019, right before his breakout season, Lamar Jackson being drafted as the quarterback 10. And people are saying before that season, why is anyone drafting him that high? It wasn't because of what he could do with his arm. It was because of what he could do with his legs. He ended up finishing as the number 1 quarterback in fantasy that year. In 2018, it's just not really helpful data because Lamar Jackson led the league despite Joe Flacco starting most of the Ravens games. Lamar Jackson still somehow led the league in rushing that year. But like I said, 5 of the last 6 seasons, the leading rusher for quarterback position has finished top 10 in fantasy. In 2017, Cam Newton was drafted as a quarterback 9. He finished as a quarterback 2. In 2023, Anthony Richardson, currently being drafted as a quarterback 11, let's just say 11 to 16. Where do we think that he could possibly finish? In my mind, he is a lock for the top 12. And by the way, I told you guys about Cam Newton. His 2017 season, he finished as a quarterback 2. In that season, he finished as a quarterback 2 despite being really bad as a passer, right? He completed 59% of his passes. He threw 16 interceptions, and he still finished as a quarterback 2 in fantasy football. That kind of sounds like an Anthony Richardson rookie year. I'm not saying it's guaranteed, but that sounds like Anthony Richardson. 59% of his passes completed, over 15 interceptions. That's what we could see, but we could still see a good fantasy year because of, again, what he can do on the ground with his legs. But 5 quarterbacks finished top 10 in the last 6 seasons when they led the league in rushing at the position. All 5 of those quarterbacks had a couple things in common. Firstly, they played 15 games at least. They had 139 rushing attempts on the year, which means they averaged 9.3 on a, only if they played 15 games. And they had at least 2,242 passing yards. Justin Fields was the lowest. Most of the other people were around 3,000. So the questions we need to ask is, will Anthony Richardson start 15 games? Yes. We talked about this in a video a couple weeks ago. Badaki and I had a debate, and I said, I believe he will be the starter from week 1 onwards. Badaki agreed with me. Now, today, we know that Anthony Richardson will be the starting quarterback week 1. I believe he will play 15 games unless an injury occurs. Second question, can he average 9.3 rushing attempts a game? Honestly, I would be absolutely shocked if he doesn't hit that number. That would mean he's a much better passer than I currently perceive him to be. But with Shane Steichen getting the best out of his current abilities, I would be shocked if this isn't an offense like we see in Baltimore, where there's a lot of options, there's a lot of quarterback rushes, and even when he is back in the pocket, I could see him scrambling a ton like we saw from Justin Fields last year. So I think he's a lock. for at least 9.3 attempts per game. The third question is, can he put up 2,200 to 3,000 passing yards on a season? I don't know the answer to that, but of course there's always risk with a rookie quarterback and with a quarterback that's beyond the top 10 in ADP. What I do know is that I am all in to find out if he can hit those marks. So if I go late round quarterbacks in my draft, I'm not just grabbing Anthony Richardson and just relying on him. Let's be clear. What I'm doing is I'm waiting till about round 10. That's his current price, round 10 to 12 to 13. I'm waiting till that round. I'm grabbing Anthony Richardson. And then with my next pick, I will grab a safe floor quarterback like a Geno Smith, a Kirk Cousins, a Jared Goff, a Dak Prescott, Aaron Rodgers, a Brock Purdy. You can see an example of Daniel Macy, who actually supports us on the Flock Fantasy website with our code. He's been supporting us for a long time, but we did a draft recently and he did this strategy and I think it worked out absolutely beautifully for him. Look at the team that he was able to build while still going late quarterbacks. He's got Cooper Kupp, Debo, Watson, Dotson, and Jamison Williams. So much upside in that wide receiver room. The running back room is absolutely stacked, still gets a good tight end in Pat Freiermuth, and has the security of Geno Smith in case Anthony Richardson does not pan out or you can't start him week 1. So look, if you miss out on Mahomes, Hurts, Fields, those quarterbacks of the world, then try this strategy. With the safety of a second floor quarterback, you genuinely have no reason not to take a shot that late in the draft. I could see a lot of fantasy teams going into the fantasy playoffs with Anthony Richardson as their quarterback 1, despite him not being a good passer, similar to what we saw with Justin Fields last year. So Anthony Richardson, for me, again, my late round quarterback, I will be drafting. Justin Fields is my guy, but if I miss out on him, I'm going to be trying Anthony Richardson and a safe quarterback too. I suggest you do the same. Let me know what you think in the comments below. And by the way, if you want to draft with us on Underdog, then go ahead and use our promo code LAND when you sign up. You're going to get 100% of your deposit matched up to $100. So quick maths, if you deposit $100, you get a free $100. And if you're already a member of the Flock Fantasy website, you can then take your Underdog username, go to your account settings, add your Underdog username there, and you'll get an extra $10. So with all of the hookups that we got for you guys, you could be looking at $110 free to use on Underdog. But let me know what you guys think of the take. Let me know what you think of Anthony Richardson. Again, I have no expectations for him as a passer, a lot of expectations for him as a rusher. Thanks for watching. Drop a like, subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one. Now that those idiots are done talking, who needs some rankings?
Hell yeah, I need some rankings.
Then use promo code LAND, L-A-N-D, for 30% off any membership at flockfantasy.com.
Oh.
It's so easy. Even your grandma could scan that QR code right there.